ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ओम नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु भद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतिरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। मम ज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं भूतले रूपकदामयं ददाति शुभाराधनम्। ओम विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिनि। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणि निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणि। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौरभक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. Okay, we're discussing chapter 5 from the book Teachings of Queen Kunti. So today it's a very beautiful verse. The vision of lotuses. Namah Pankajanaಭಾಯ, Namah Pankajamaline, Namah Pankajanetraya, Namaste Pankajangraye. My respectful obeisances are unto you, O Lord, whose abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower, who are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, whose glance is as cool as the lotus, and whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Pankajanaಭಾಯ, Pankajamaline, Pankajanetraya, Pankaja Angraye. Here are some of the specific symbolical marks on the spiritual body of the personality of Godhead, which distinguishes his body from the bodies of all others. They are all special features of the body of the Lord. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by his special bodily features. Srimati Kunti claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. This is claimed because women Shudras and the Dvijabandhus, or the wretched descendants of the higher three classes, are unfit by intelligence to understand transcendental subject matter concerning the spiritual name, fame, attributes, forms, etc. of the Supreme Absolute Truth. Such persons, although they are unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs of the Lord, can see him as the Archa Vigraha who descends on the material world just to distribute favors to the fallen souls, including the above mentioned women, Shudras, and Dvijabandhus. Because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter into each and every one of the innumerable universe as Garbhodakashayi Vishnu, who grows a lotus stem from the lotus-like depression in the center of his transcendental abdomen. And thus Brahma, the first living being in the universe, is born. Therefore, the Lord is known as Pankajanabhi. The Pankajanabhi Lord accepts the Archa Vigraha in different elements, namely a form within the mind, a form made of wood, a form made of earth, a form made of metal, a form made of jewels, a form made of paint, a form drawn on sand, etc. All such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, and there should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees always engaged in material wranglings. Okay, so let's try to understand this. So first is we have to understand these marks that are here are actually symbolical marks on the spiritual body of the person. You've got it. Okay, so I'm not sure if Prabhupada is describing the lotus feet of the Lord, so I'm just showing it here. So this in the middle is Lord Krishna's lotus feet. So if you see on the right lotus feet, this is the right lotus foot, sorry, right lotus foot, there's a lotus flower. And there's a lotus flower. There's a barley corn, there's a disc chakra, then there's a lotus flower, elephant gourd, vajra, thunderbolt, flag, victory flag, then there's an umbrella, then this is called Udhav Rekha, this one, the middle. Then these are four swastiks, then these are four jamun fruits. And there's something else also which I don't know what it is. It's Ashtagan, maybe this one. So, and on the left lotus foot, this is two circles, Akash. Then there's a conch shell, there's a unstrung bow, then these are two cows, hoof prints. Then there are four water pots, then there's a triangle, then there's a half moon and a fish. Now, all of these will have some significance, which I have not gone into a lot of study of this, but we can understand that the lotus flower is present on the right foot of the Lord. So here, whose feet are engraved with lotuses. Glance is as cool as lotus. So this again, I mean, it's very difficult for us to understand how the glance, how cool lotus is. So if somebody has taken a fresh lotus from a pond, and if you touch it, we'll see that it is very cool. So Krishna's glance is like cooling as the lotus. Now everything is being compared to the lotus because elsewhere it is said that this is possibly the closest comparison to Krishna's transcendental features in the material world. There's nothing else better than this to um describe his some of his features. Right, so it said his glance is as cool as the lotus. It could have been glance is as cool as sandalwood, but like I said, this is considered most closest in terms of comparison. And he's always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers. Yeah, so our Janmashtami celebration in Ulimau, we offered Lord lotus flowers because he likes them. And his abdomen is marked with a depression like a lotus flower. So Prabhupada is saying these are specific symbolical marks on the spiritual body. The Lord may appear as one of us, but he is always distinct by specific bodily features. Now again, this we discussed 2 verses back. Srimati Kunti claims herself unfit to see the Lord because of her being a woman. We discussed saying that this is for everybody in Kali Yuga, anyway, Kalo Shudra Sambhavaha. So everybody is unfit. How? Unfit by intelligence. Intelligence means basically, see, what is the lack of qualification is for this class of people to actually read the Vedas. That is the lack of qualification we should understand. That generally in Shastra, Vedic way of life, women Shudras and Vijabandhus are not allowed to read Vedas. Only the Brahmanas and Kshatriyas also, because they're Dvijas, they are allowed. And Vaishyas also. But Vaishyas don't read Shastra, but they are still considered as Dvijas, I think. But Brahmana Kshatriya, definitely they can read the Shastra. So the other classes, they are considered as unfit by intelligence, meaning they cannot approach the Lord through Veda. Because the Vedas are supposed to be there to understand transcendental subject matter, because Krishna says Vedasya sarve rahameva vedyaha. So the transcendental subject matter of the absolute truth, they're unfit by intelligence to approach, but not by bhakti, because bhakti has no requirement, no connection to intelligence. Such persons, although they're unfit to enter into the spiritual affairs, can see him as the Archa Vigraha. So that is why we have to understand that actually there are 3 paths overall. There is Vedic Patha, there is Vedic path, then there is Pancharatrika, And then there is Bhagavata, Bhagavata Vidhi, Pancharatrika Vidhi, and Vaidika Vidhi. So Vaidika Vidhi is more traditional, um, which was being followed in ancient days, following exactly as per Shastra. And as per Vaidika Vidhi, a person has to, his qualification is not by guna and karma, his qualification is by birth, janma. So Vaidika Vidhi is very, very strict. It believes saying that a person, if he doesn't have good karma, he will not be born in the house of a Brahmana or in the Dvija. So he's not qualified. And in that system, women are also disqualified, Shudras are also disqualified, and Dvija Bandhus who are born in the Dvija families, but don't have the required qualification. They're called Dvija Bandhus. So Vaidika Vidhi rejects all of them, and doesn't allow them to actually study the Vedas. But Pancharatrika Vidhi is given by Narada Muni actually, Pancharatra. Now in this, it's not as strict as Vaidika Vidhi. So Pancharatrika Vidhi allows Guna Karma. Based on Guna Karma, it allows people to engage in understanding the Supreme Lord and engaging in worship. But actually for Kali Yuga, what Shri Prahlad Maharaj gave us was Bhagavata Vidhi, Shravanam Kirtanam. So in Shravanam Kirtanam, nobody is disqualified. Mm, at least in even in Pancharatrika Vidhi, there are still rules. For example, Pancharatrika Vidhi says that one might not be born Brahmana, but he has to get the qualification of Brahmana by becoming Brahmin initiated, by developing qualities of Shama, Dama, Shaucham, all these various qualities that Krishna speaks in Bhagavad Gita. One has to develop those qualities, then he becomes a Brahmana, and then he can do deity worship. So this Pancharatrika Vidhi is more it gives us guidance on deity worship. Bhagavata Vidhi, it's open to all, no qualification. So Vaidika Vidhi is super strict. Pancharatrika Vidhi is not as strict, but it still has Vidhi. There's a process, there are rules, regulations to be followed. Bhagavata Vidhi is just open to all. So Bhagavata Vidhi is what actually everybody should accept, but not Pancharatrika Vidhi. Unfortunately, in today's practice of Krishna consciousness, many people who are not actually Brahmanas, they get Brahmin initiated. Actually, this is not correct. A Brahmana, one must be living like a Brahmana to get Brahmin initiated. Right? So this disqualification is as per Vaidika Vidhi and to some extent Pancharatrika Vidhi, but Bhagavata Vidhi doesn't disqualify anybody. So that is why the focus is on Shravanam Kirtanam, because how many people can become Brahmin initiated, right? Out of say 100 people who are Harinam initiated, maybe one person will be Brahmin initiated, right? But what about 99? They will engage in Bhagavata Vidhi, which is Shravanam Kirtanam. Because such fallen souls cannot see anything beyond matter, the Lord condescends to enter into each and every one of them in the universes as Garbhodakashaya Vishnu. So Prabhupada is saying that Lord actually, so then he accepts Archa Vigraha. He enters the Archa Vigraha and he accepts these forms. Bhagavatam talks about these different forms: mind, wood, earth, metal, jewels, paint, sand, etc. And all such forms of the Lord are always decorated with garlands of lotus flowers, and they should be soothing atmosphere. See, this is very, very important. There should be a soothing atmosphere in the temple of worship to attract the burning attention of the non-devotees. Always engage in material wranglings. So this is non-devotees who come to. Prabhupada said that our temples should become oases in the deserts. But if the required atmosphere is not created, many times we have seen people come into our temple centers and nobody is there to speak to them. New people, but nobody feels like going and speaking to them. We should always remember that our temple is actually a house of Krishna. He is the boss. We are servants. And when some guests come to the house, servants have to treat them nicely. Right? So we have to treat them nicely. Otherwise, if there is no soothing atmosphere, then what is the difference between a Krishna conscious temple and outside some normal temples or even general gatherings that society, part of the society that people are not getting that love and affection there, right? It's all self-centeredness. So when people come into the temple, they should feel, oh, this is such a beautiful atmosphere. so selfless, so pure, so pristine. So I want to come here again. Because they're otherwise they're engaged in material wranglings. Wranglings, where is that? Arguments, especially ones that continue for a long time. So basically quarreling. People just engage in all these kind of things outside. Now, when they come into the Krishna conscious atmosphere, into our temples, they should actually feel, oh, that this is different. Oh, there's such a soothing atmosphere. And Prabhupada is saying part of the soothing atmosphere is how the Lord is decorated. And of course, then a big part of the atmosphere is also how devotees greet those visitors. The meditators worship a form within the mind. Therefore, the Lord is merciful even to women, Shudras, and Virabandhus, provided they agree to visit the temple and worship the different forms made for them. Thus, temple visitors are not idolaters as alleged by some men with a poor fund of knowledge. All the great acharyas established such temples of worship in all places just to favor the less intelligent. And one should not pose himself at transcending the stage of temple worship while one is actually in the category of Shudras and the women are less. So generally, that is why in our practice we have both Pancharatrika Vidhi and Bhagavata Vidhi. We are used to seeing things from our eyes, and when we see the beautiful form of the Lord and so nicely decorated and dressed, we get attracted. Mm. And our specific our temple is we see so beautifully deities are decorated and dressing and flowers and so much of attention to detail. Mm. And that attracts people and see so many people they're attracted to come to our temple because the beautiful so much of love devotees serve the Lord there. One should begin to see the Lord from his lotus feet, gradually rising to the thighs, base, chest, and face. One should not try to look at the face of the Lord without being accustomed to seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. This is in Bhagavatam, this is described in the second canto, how one has to see the Lord. The description of the Lord's form in the heart. Sukadeva Goswami says that one has to start with the lotus feet. And he says that those who have not overcome material lust should not go beyond the lotus feet of the Lord. They should not see the other angas of the Lord. They should definitely not see the face of the Lord. Because we lack qualification, we lack purification. And then Prabhupada in that purport says that actually those who are materially engrossed grossly, they should not even read Bhagavatam beyond the first and second cantos. So he says they have to repeatedly read first and second cantos because by doing that our anarthas will go, will become pure, will come out of the stage of gross sense gratification. So the lotus feet of the Lord actually is uh, is a remedy for people who are um, grossly engaged in sense gratification. So first, that is why here Prabhupada is saying one should not try to look at the face of the Lord without getting accustomed to seeing. Accustomed meaning on a daily basis we should keep seeing the lotus feet of the Lord. And then when we feel that we are actually being pure, our anarthas seem to be reduced, our uh, gross sense gratification is reduced, then we can start. It's not that we should not see at all, but we should not dhyana, right? Like focus on other parts of the uh, spiritual form of the Lord. Srimati Kunti, because of her being the aunt of the Lord, did not begin to see the Lord from the lotus feet. Here in the verse, she didn't start with Namaste, Namah Pankaja Angre, which is the lotus feet. She did not do that, and Prabhupada is explaining why. Because the Lord might feel ashamed, and thus Kunti Devi, just to save a painful situation for the Lord, began to see the Lord just above his lotus feet, that is from the waist, gradually rising to the face and then down to the lotus feet. In the round, everything there is in order. So why? Because she is the aunt, and Krishna will feel embarrassed. Oh, what is this? My aunt is looking at my feet. So Kunti, see, this is the beauty of devotees, right? Kunti Maharani, though she knows etiquette, she also knows that because I'm in this relationship with Krishna, I should not put Krishna in distress. Hmm? To save a painful situation. And see how Acharyas reveal this secret. Otherwise we can never think about this. We keep wondering, saying that why Kunti Maharani broke the rule. Because she knows, she understands Krishna more intimately than we do. So she didn't want to create a painful situation for the Lord. See, this is very, very important actually. Many times we transgress rules, right? And by transgressing rules, actually, we are creating a painful situation for the Lord. Mm. So we should try and follow rules and regulations. It is meant to be followed. The rules have been given for us to follow. And when we follow, we please the Lord. And when we please the Lord, we make progress. Mm. Sometimes some rules can be broken, but that is on the permission of the Guru, not whimsically. We are not qualified to actually break rules. Acharyas have given rules, and as people belonging to a sampradaya, we are supposed to follow the rules put down by the acharyas. But sometimes, in some special cases, guru have the right to, for some specific instances, specific devotees, guru will give some respite. They say, okay, you may not follow this rule, but that's not a generalization. That's not for everybody. That's not for all situations. We have to understand, we have to be very, very careful when we are breaking a rule that is normally that has been followed by our acharyas, parampara. We have to be very careful because these kind of things result in seva aparad, and that prevents us from making progress. I keep saying this. If you do seva aparad, Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu says seva aparad, remedy for seva aparad is chanting. But if we are also doing nama aparad, then Nama will also not come to our rescue. And if Seva goes on increasing, it results in Nama Aparad. So it's very difficult for us to make progress if we are breaking rules. So we have to be very careful about this. And also we should understand these rules have been put by Acharyas, and if we break those rules, Krishna is not happy. If one sees a lotus flower, one can immediately remember Krishna. See, we have to remember Krishna. If one sees a lotus flower, one can immediately remember Krishna. For example, if one loves one's child and one sees any of the child's garments or his shoes or a small ship or any of his playthings, one will immediately remember the child. Oh, these are my child's shoes. These are my child's playthings. This is his garment. This is the nature of love. So if one actually loves Krishna, one can remember him always. So beautiful. See, anything and everything connected with this that is why great devotees don't see anything apart from Krishna in this material world, right? They see everything in connection with Krishna. So they immediately remember Krishna. This is Krishna consciousness. This is Krishna consciousness. For example, I mean, we see things and, for example, say somebody is having some distress. We see the distress or think about the distress independent of Krishna. Corona came, we looked at Corona independent of Krishna. But if we think, if we see, oh, our karma phala, oh, I should have suffered more, but Krishna has reduced it. So we think about Krishna. Oh, Corona, why so many people are dying so miserably? Oh, because they've broken the rules of Krishna. They are getting punished. Oh, Krishna. That is why sometimes it surprises me. Many times we see many people speaking, giving Krishna conscious talks, but they don't take the name of Krishna. And it's just very hard. It's very hard to talk about Krishna consciousness without Krishna. How can we talk about Krishna consciousness without Krishna? In fact, we should try to talk about Krishna in every aspect of our, living. Right? That is what has to be done. Anukulyasya sankalpaha. Whatever is anukula, whatever is favorable for Krishna consciousness, we should try to adopt that. In the name of preaching, many people say, no, we are secular. We want to preach secular. How can you preach secular? Krishna is not secular. Of course, he's secular, but without mentioning Krishna's name, if he's, of course, Prabhupada mentioned God because he was in a Western environment. But in India also, we should not do this. We should do Krishna. Yes, Krishna. So beautiful. Beautiful name of Krishna. One should always remember Krishna. So whatever we see in connection, anything in this material world, and of course, some things which we are directly connected to Krishna should automatically make us remember Krishna. It is not difficult. Prabhupada is saying it is not difficult to remember Krishna. And we find it so difficult to remember Krishna because we just remember ourselves. For us, we are in the forefront. Krishna is not in the forefront. So Prabhupada is saying it is not difficult to remember Krishna. So we should understand saying that then we have to bring about a change in our life, the way we are thinking. Here Kunti Devi describes Krishna with reference to lotus flowers. Similarly, when Krishna describes himself in Bhagavad Gita, he says, Rasoham apsu kaunteya. I am the taste of liquids. So one can remember Krishna by tasting water. Even if one is drinking liquor, if he thinks the taste of the drink is Krishna, he will one day turn out to be a great saintly person. One day. We don't suddenly put garland on him and say, oh, he's drinking liquor and thinking about Krishna. But he will one day turn out to be a great saintly person. So I can request, I can request even drunkards to become Krishna conscious. What to speak of others? Because Krishna says, Rasoham apsu kaunteya, I am the taste of liquids. Generally, in this context, liquid is taken to mean water, but liquor is also liquid. It is only sugar and molasses or some other combination fermented and distilled. Of course, it is bad because it creates intoxication. Although, in one sense, nothing is bad, liquor is bad because it creates bad effects. In America, there are many drunkards. There is no scarcity of them. But I may request even the drunkards, when drinking wine, kindly remember that the taste of this drink is Krishna. Just begin in this way, and one day you will become a saintly Krishna conscious person. See, Prabhupada doesn't leave anybody, and everything he connects to Krishna. And he says, finally, but we have to think about Krishna. It's not like we just say, oh, okay, drinking wine is also a very Krishna conscious activity. No, it's not a Krishna conscious activity, absolutely. Like, that's why we have to follow four regulative principles. But even in drinking wine, somebody can be taught to think about Krishna. And then Prabhupada is saying, gradually one day you'll become a saintly Krishna conscious person. We also one day should become saintly Krishna conscious. And today we are like part saintly, insanely, whatever we want to call, right? But we should also become saintly Krishna conscious because the process is so powerful. Just think about Krishna in all situations. I also tell this many a time saying that, generally in India, if we are unwell, generally people have this habit, ma, bap, amma, pa, whatever, different languages. Stop all that. Father, mother, calling out father, mother, loved ones. Call Krishna. Oh, I have pain in the leg, Krishna. Oh, I have a headache, Krishna. Oh, I got this beautiful something unexpected, Krishna. We have to call out Krishna as much as possible. So Krishna is available under any circumstances if we want to catch him. See, he is available under any circumstance. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam pritipurukam dadami buddhi yogam tam enamam upayanti te. To those who are constantly, this is the keyword, constantly devoted and worship me with love, not as a matter of vidhi. I put that post yesterday on our group. Prabhupada this one lecture on the first canto. He's saying the real bhakti is Raganuga Bhakti. Raganuga Bhakti means the love that is shown or in the footsteps of the love shown by the residents of Vrindavan. Let me repeat that, in the footsteps of the love shown by the residents of Vrindavan. That is Raganuga. But before we come to Raganuga, we should strictly follow Vaidhi Bhakti. Means Vidhi, means rules. If we follow Vidhi, Prabhupada says one has to surpass Vaidhi Bhakti, he says in that post. Surpass Vaidhi Bhakti. Surpass means not jump over. Surpass means do it properly and then become qualified to cross over it or move above it, move beyond it. And then we come to Raganuga. Anyway, we'll talk about Raganuga some other time. I have told in bits and pieces. But those are constantly devoted. This constant devotion is important. For them, yena mam upayantite, they can come to me. I'll tatami buddhi yogam tam, I will give them the understanding. But Krishna doesn't give this to anybody and everybody. Krishna gives this to those who are constantly devoted and who are worshipping him with love. So this is very, very important. Prabhupada actually said, when we are chanting Hare Krishna, we have to try and develop love for Krishna. When I heard that, I was saying, how can you try to develop love for something? It has to be natural. Yeah, but we should at least not do things which are not favorable, right? Then love will automatically develop. And this not favorable thing is like yesterday I was also saying, like pouring water. We are supposed to ignite the fire, chanting by name, and then we do that in the morning. Then the rest of the day, 22 hours, we are pouring water. And how will the fire remain? But if the fire remains and it starts to glow, blaze, then we will achieve Krishna. If one is actually very serious in searching for Krishna, Krishna is everywhere. Andantarastha paramanu chayantarastham govindamadipurusham tamam bhajami. Krishna is present within the universe, within our hearts, and even within the atom. So it's not difficult to find him, but one must know the process by which to do so. This process is very simple. And by the order of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are distributing this process to everyone without charge. The process is to chant Hare Krishna. As soon as one chants Hare Krishna, one will immediately understand Krishna. See, what does this mean? If you have not immediately understood Krishna, that means we are not properly chanting Hare Krishna. Sometime I'm hoping to do there's a 3-part, 4-part seminar on chanting. Sometime I'm hoping to do that. Krishna willing. But if we can chant Hare Krishna properly, then we'll immediately understand Krishna. Okay, I'm going to stop here. If anybody has any questions, comments, we can discuss. Hare Krishna. Any questions, thoughts?
True, once more.
Yeah. Hare Krishna. Yes, Ruchira Mataji.
No, Prabhuji was asking. Please go ahead. I'll ask it later.
Okay. Chiranjeev Prabhu.
Prabhuji, one question which is not from this lecture, but can I ask Prabhu?
Once again, then we'll come to that at the end. If there's anything connected to what we discussed, we can first do that.
Yes, sure. Sorry.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Dandavat Pradam.
Prabhu, just one second, Kuldeep Prabhu. Ruchira Mataji, is your question related to today's discussion?
Yes.
Yeah, please. Yeah.
Prabhuji, just like the etiquettes are to have darshan of Lord from the lotus feet. But nowadays, like I got a picture of Lord with his lotus feet, Srimati Radharani and Lord from Mayapur, I think. So, what can we say about that? Like,
Sorry.
it's
What
not
did you
right,
get?
actually. I got a picture from my friend. There is only lotus face of Lord and Srimati Radharani from the Mayapur temple. So it's not right to directly look at the face of the Lord, na?
Well, that is what. It totally depends on our qualification, where we stand, our level of purity, etc. This is for mostly materialists. Materialists are not encouraged to see directly the lotus face of the Lord. But even if we have little, if you have started to follow rules, if you are sincere in terms of what we are seeing, we are allowed to see the lotus face of the Lord. Just that, we should understand. For example, I'll tell you what I do as a practice. When my mind is very disturbed due to whatever reason, etc., right? And some anarthas are coming up, then I focus more on the lotus feet of the Lord. Then I don't look at the lotus face of the Lord, because I just know that, I'm still there's some impurity. But normally, when day in, day out, we are okay, we are, doing Krishna conscious nicely, trying to practice sincerely, etc. Practicing devotees, we can see the lotus face of the Lord. This is more for, like I said, in Bhagavatam, it clearly said for gross materialists. So I don't think any of us are gross materialists. But sometimes we may fall, temporary fall downs will happen. And that time we can focus more on the lotus feet of the Lord. This is my understanding.
Yes, Prabhuji, it happens like even when I don't do properly, like my sadhana, I think I'm not eligible to look at Lord's face directly.
That's
That's
fine. So you
something
be true to
feels
your feelings. You be true to your
right.
feelings. See, this is something I tell people, saying that one is we should not transgress rules. But if we want to, if we feel that I actually am at a lower level of the rule and I'm pulling myself down to a lower level, it's absolutely fine. It's absolutely fine. And when we feel truthfully saying that no, no, I think that I'm little bit more pure than before, and I feel naturally I want to look at the lotus face of the Lord, we can look at the lotus face of the Lord. See, the discretion has to be within, right? We should not think that we are overqualified, but thinking we are underqualified is always good. That is the mood of a devotee, humility. It's always good to think we are underqualified.
Yes, Prabhuji. And one
Yeah,
more thing,
yeah,
the Panchratrik Vidhi is basically deity worship, na?
yeah.
Okay. And
Mostly
people,
there are other aspects also in that, but we follow the deity worship aspects of Pancharatri.
yes. Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Okay, Kuldeep Prabhu.
Yes, Prabhu. Prabhuji, in previous lecture, you have said about the Brahmana quality. What are the Brahmana quality?
Shama, Dama, Saucham. Um, mm, 1 second. Shamas, Damas. What is that verse? Can't remember. 1 second. Mm. Yeah, Shama, Dama, Tapa, Shaucham, Shantir, Arjavam, Evacha, Gnanam, Vijnanam, Astikyam, Brahma Karma Swabhavajan. This is from 18th chapter. 18th chapter, qualities of the different varnas. Uh, so there are, I think it's some around verse 42, I think. Shama, Dama, Tapa, Saucham, Shantir, Arjavam, Evacha, Gnanam, Vijnanam, Astikyam, Brahma Karma Swabhavajam. So you can read 3 verses. That is, the first one is Satuguna, then there's Rajoguna, Brahmana, then Kshatriya, then the third verse is for Vaishya and Shudra, and then Prabhupada writes the purport on the third verse, describing some of these qualities. But generally, Prabhupada has described these qualities in various purports, all these qualities of a Brahman and different purports. And ideally, actually, the process is supposed to be that one develops or reaches this Brahminical stage in terms of, at least not perfectly, but going in that direction, then one should take Brahmin initiation. Because Brahmin initiation means that I'm living the life of a Brahmana. So we should not generally take Brahmin initiation if we are not if you are not going in this direction at all, like Shama, like there's no self-control. Dhamma, there's no sense control. Tapa, we are not doing any austerities. Shaucham, we are not following any cleanliness. So then, we should be wary of getting Brahmin initiated. Generally, yeah, better to follow this, because then we actually become qualified for Brahma Gayatri, because Brahma Gayatri is not for everybody, right? So, okay,
Yes, Prabhuji.
yeah. Chiranjeev Prabhu.
Prabhu, I think recording is on.
Yeah, it's okay.
This is apart
It's
from this
fine.
subject.
It's fine.
Prabhu, like tomorrow when we do Mangalarti, like,
Oh, no, no,
I
no. It's
have
not.
done it in
No, no.
the
That we will.
past couple of times,
Chiranjeev
but
Prabhu, that we will discuss.
um,
That do you call me? We'll discuss. It's, if it is respect to philosophy, something we have been discussing, these
okay,
books we can discuss. Something else, Mangalati,
I just
etc. We
want to
can discuss.
apologize.
No, no problem. You call me, we'll discuss.
Just want to apologize for yesterday's thing. Sorry, Prabhu. I'm very
Hare
sorry.
Krishna.
I didn't
Okay,
see it. What is what? Hare Krishna.
okay, okay. Anything else? Anybody? Okay. Anything else? We will